Hello, and good morning. So after doing a little bit of research on the matter, looks like that stick I'm looking for is only going to be possible through getting that book. So, long story short, going to be doing the rest of this. Might as well move on. So, next up is Vermisia. It's, usual kind of thing. Still expecting to be fairly overpowered for a little bit. Since, yeah, it looks like we're more worried about the 40 wall than the 30 wall at this point. Oh, what business do they have here while they're taking over your swamp castle? This place is grody looking. I don't know how bad this place must smell. Like, if you got friggin' tar and nastiness all over the place and you just gotta stand around in that crap, sounds like a bum deal. Not to mention, how did they even get through here? Like, okay, so the deal with most castles at that time. I mean, okay, they're meant to be defensive structures and all that. I mean, hell, you can even see this thing has, I wouldn't call them murder holes, but kind of little shooty windows. Basically, that's what murder holes were. Zoom out a little bit. You can see their little windows all over the place, but usually the idea was that it was just like little circles of windows that would essentially allow them to fire at any invaders or whatever else. But that's the weird part about this castle. So, for one thing, they would need carts, for supplies, trade, whatever else going in and out of here. It's just like a tiny little road going up to a tiny little gate. It makes me think that this is either some back entrance, which I don't think it is, and or, maybe it's just a fortress. It's not actually a little castle. Who knows? I don't know if we're ever going to get an answer on that. Because this seems to just be sort of like a military type of place more than anything. Could be wrong on that, but as far as I can tell. Unless I'm missing something obvious, which is always possible. Sleep deprivation is definitely a thing. However, it's definitely worth it. So, update on little kitten dealies. So, I was saying last time we had gone and basically fostered a couple little kittens. They're basically preemie ones, so their mom had gotten eaten by a coyote or something, and so somebody had just put an ad on Craigslist, like, well, your mom got ate, so, somebody want to take these kittens, because I don't know what to do with them. So, my wife was trained to be a vet, well, vet tech. So, actually, funny little random difference that I don't see get brought up very often. A lot of people will say how, they want to grow up and work with animals and all that. And they, they usually don't consider the whole thing of, like, the vet doesn't actually do that much. Usually the vet techs are the ones actually working with the animals. It's kind of like in a lot of modern medical offices, there's the doctor that diagnoses and the doctor that actually does the surgery. Basically just have everybody doing their different roles and specializing in them. So, in that case, the vet tech would be the one actually going and fixing all the stuff that's wrong with the animal in question, whereas the vet would be the one just kind of diagnosing it and getting paid the big bucks. So usually, as far as I understand it, you would have, only a handful, maybe one or two vets per office, but you might have 4 or 5 vet techs, so it's basically the more viable job option. Although, even that is still something that doesn't have a whole lot of openings, so unfortunately was never able to actually make it a job. But it's actually funny because all of those same skills end up carrying over to basically people stuff. So if you're ever wondering, like, hey, I trained to be a vet, but friggin' nobody has any spots for a vet, the movies and everybody else lied to me, then yeah, there's absolutely viable openings for just people stuff, like, especially when it comes to anything needle related, apparently. Because all the same techniques actually apply, because all just, mammals. So, that's dandy. Kind of found it interesting. But yeah, so had gotten these kittens, and well, the long and short of it is, was mentioning before, they kind of just need to be just force-fed a lot of the time. That's kind of the big shtick with them, just like kind of observing them and making sure they get their food in and stuff like that. Because they are tiny, like super tiny. Don't know if I mentioned, but it was basically, you have, if you have a hamster, if you've ever had a hamster, it's pretty much exactly that size. So, like, I guess something like, I'm thinking of, not a gopher. See, like, I want to say a mouse, but a mouse is slightly smaller. I want to say a rat, because a rat is way bigger. They're tiny, that's what I'm trying to get at. They can just fit in the palm of your hand. Actually, earlier today I was going and fixing their heating situation, because they basically they can't regulate their body temperature yet, so you have to keep all kinds of different things around to keep them warm. But yeah, so they I could actually fit both of them in my hand. Also, wow, you've just one-shotted somebody. Sounds like a very Steve thing to do. But yeah. So, what was I getting at here? Oh yeah. So, yeah, they're still friggin' adorable. It's actually a little bit hilarious, because at this point, they can't actually be touched. And it's not actually for their safety so much as ours, because, well, little kittens, like when they're little tiny babies, up to 2 weeks, they have a very high chance of having worms. So, being as they have a tendency to be messy, and probably at some point manage to get some little speck of poo somewhere, that might end up causing worms, as I understand it. Because basically you have to force them to poo, to random grody information for the day, but yeah, no, you gotta massage stuff. Like, they can't go to the bathroom on their own. It's like old people, but little babies. Yeah. So that's interesting. But yeah, no, you gotta, like, wear gloves with them and stuff. I have this whole, like, system set up of just, like, a table with all the different supplies going in a rotating thing wherever they need to be. Fun. You know, it's fun whenever there's complicated situations like this. Like, honestly, I haven't been sleeping for several days now, because honestly, I just find it a lot easier not to. Like, I don't know if you've ever run into that situation where it's just, if you're getting up and going to sleep so many times, you know, you're better off taking a couple of those naps where you can, but by and large not going into a deep sleep, and then you just have a tendency to function better throughout the day. But yeah, so I've been having that kind of situation. But it's been weirdly refreshing, I have to say. Like, I was used to trying to get more and more sleep and whatever else and trying to catch up, and now I just take random naps throughout the day pretty much. And it's awesome. It's like being constantly awake. Great. Field. Actually, right, there's a silence hitting thing now. Should be making use of that at some point. Forgot that that's one of the main reasons I gave them those shields right there. Oh, also I should probably mention, there is another patch coming soon, and he said it's got a lot of niftiness to it. So, it'll be fun. Actually, speaking of stuff that gets patches and this, it's, I don't know, a random thought that's been in my head lately. So, you know, they added it to that online FF, whatever one that is, I forget, like 14, 15, whatever, whichever one it is, it's got all the stuff in it. But it kind of makes me wonder, the way that they balanced the original, I kind of thought, maybe they were trying to prove that they could make a viable, like, strategy MMO of sorts. Because the balancing was just like one, to every possible degree. Honestly, I can't even think of anything that didn't fall into that category. Just exactly that. Was there anything really? I mean, the story part, but even then you were going and repeating the thing several times. Dang. He was on a rampage. He was like mugging and one-shotting dudes everywhere. This is amazing. But yeah, no, so that made me wonder. I mean, even down to boss raids, they had all that going on. So clearly the thought was there. Well, we'll never really get a salt on that, I know that for sure. Here's the thing. Every time that I end up liking a series, it's always already dead. Don't you just hate when that happens? It's always annoying. Like, I've been a fan of AC since I was a little kid, for example. I'm gonna say for example, 50 billion times. No, was a fan of that since I was a little kid. You know, my brother and I grew up on it. It's actually funny because the same stuff that my brother and I grew up on, and or he made fun of me for playing, is the same kind of stuff that I still like to this day. Like when originally when I was getting into TO, there was this countrywide trip I was going on, and I was looking around for different games and all that. I didn't even know what a strategy game was yet, and well, actually, there were a couple that I liked, but didn't really know what. Like I said, didn't really know what a strategy game was quite yet. Like there was one that was called Lead Soldier that I played a fair bit. It was more of an RTS, but I like the idea of strategy stuff in general. So, tricky as crap. However, I don't think I'm going to upgrade their bows because they don't really need that up. But okay, so yeah, I'm picking out a thing for this trip, and it was kind of like one of those, all the money that's around gets thrown out of vacation for some reason. Because despite my mother being a complete nut job that ended up screwing me over more ways than I can possibly count over the course of my life, they did have a flair for the dramatic as far as family vacations went. So, what ended up happening was, yeah, a trip attempting to reach as many states as were possibly affordable and or not affordable. As I understand, my dad was so, I don't know if it was like because of a fight or whatever else, but I think it was actually just like she spent so much money on that crap that he almost hung himself. But at any rate, we were going on this trip, going and picking out something to do on it. So yeah, I'm looking around at these different reviews online and everything, and I see FFT, and I see a Knight of Lotus. And I'm looking at both of them like, these both look amazing. I don't know what a strategy game is, but I'm looking at them like, I see graphs, I see multiple units everywhere, and I see customization options. I don't know what those are yet, but I want them. And so, yeah, ended up saving up what pennies I could. Funnily enough, I was actually a moneylender as a kid. It was like one of these things where I would be given money for lunch and whatever else, so I would just like cheap out on lunch stuff. I would just go and lend money out to classmates that were doing stuff, and then they would have to pay it back with interest, and oh man, was the school pissed when they found out. But either way, you know, it worked. Basically let me buy games for myself. Because sure as hell wasn't getting my mother to buy any of them, so there was that. But yeah, so finally I end up going with FFT because it's the only one that I can actually find. So I bring it home, you know, pop it up on the old chunky TV on sitting on a dresser, like everyone had at that time. And my brother comes in, looks at it for a second. And in one of the very few times I actually heard him make a pun, he's like, "This looks like a board game." Like, no, I don't know what it is. I can't figure out how to get out of this menu. It's like, no, it looks like a bored game, and I was trying to say it looked like a boring game. It was one of the only puns I ever heard him make in his entire life, and it was horribly cringeworthy, and he would probably slap me for making that same pun, but still. But yeah, no, I got stuck on that deployment menu for FFT for like 3 hours before I finally just figured out how to start it, and then it was another month until I figured out that you could actually put more than one unit on there. So I kept trying to friggin' solo that first fight and kept getting really close. Like, it got to the point where I was unreasonably good at that first fight with that one guy and was figuring out all their different patterns and everything. I'll figure this out somehow. And then, yeah. Finally, I go back one day, like, I'm going and talking to my friends at school and the opera house and everything else. Like, dude, I tried this thing, it's supposed to be really good. Oh, also, by the way, there we go, first casualty from the Reflect strategy. I think it's been doing a pretty good job in the background here. I like it. I mean, no one's even desperately injured or anything right now. Just gonna go here to collect cards for the sake of having booby traps for later. Just gonna need those. But okay, so yeah, I'm going and, you know, talk to my friends at the opera house and all that. Man, this thing's so difficult. You only get that one revive move, and I guess you're supposed to just like revive each other back and forth, but the computer won't do it. So I don't know what you're supposed to do. It wasn't on time. You just love the time before the internet. It was like this whole thing where everything was amazing and you just had to puzzle it out. Or actually, no. The best part was early internet, I think. Like, when there wasn't necessarily a lot of guides and stuff out yet, but you were starting to get all the cool random internet stuff. That was the best, you know? Like this nice little tiny moment where stuff was nice and balanced, and then the 2000s hit and everything got crazy and it got nuts crazy. Crazy nuts, if you will. But, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's nostalgia goggles, but thinking critically about it, it seemed, you know, there was that little moment where stuff was, it didn't quite reach fully into Crazy Town yet, at least not. Actually, come to think of it, no, at that point, Happy Tree Friends was already around, so never mind, I'm just completely full of it. There was plenty of crazy crap around. It just wasn't as, I guess, established as it is now. Wasn't firmly organized into memes and everything else. I don't know, maybe that's the boring part of it. Who knows? Actually, speaking of organizing and everything else, now that summer's here, I discovered constantly get reminded of the amazingness that is ant logic. So, whoa. Only a bunch of updates. They didn't know they were coming. Well, I'm sorry, they couldn't get any mail through the friggin' bog they have outside their door. The mailman fell in and drowned. Actually, funnily enough, I ended up losing my sneakers on my vacation recently because we went to go play frisbee golf, and I went to go make a jump across this little ditch that I thought was perfectly safe. Try to get to the other side. By the way, let me drop this here in case the emulator crashes. But anyway, so I tried to jump to the other side, and apparently the perfectly normal-looking grass was not perfectly normal, so, like, I go to take a jump, and foot gets eaten by the ground. Then I try to catch myself, the other foot gets eaten by the ground, ended up going and just friggin' hoofing it barefoot back to the car. Yeah, they decided that from then on I shall be known as Swampus. I was just covered in just black frickin' goo. Gross. Alright, everyone's gonna do the usual strategy here, because this map is awkward as hell. Although it is one of the few maps that actually makes proper use of fortifications. Interesting. Actually, funnily enough, if you I believe in the original, you actually didn't start over here. You actually started over here, which was a bit more reasonable. And I think this is just, again, largely because they want to force the player into dealing with these fortifications. But I'm pretty sure your party started over here. You guys are functionally immortal, but this is just a faster way to do it. We'll just go ahead and run it at Steve speed here. But yeah, so as far as ants are concerned, like I was trying to say, now that summer's here, ant logic is one of those amazing things. Because, yeah, all of their mass communication and everything else kind of comes at the cost of not really thinking what they're doing. So, every time, one thing they used to hear about as a problem in Texas, for example, every now and then, is that ants suddenly showed up in droves to basically go and suicidally attack a thing that they don't really have any reason to do so. Not any good reason. Okay? Now, as far as the reasoning behind this, well, pretty much the same reason that every time that I try and flush a friggin' ant down the toilet, that 50 more show up there in the morning. They're just floating on the water, like, no, we're gonna save them from that evil toilet. Not sure how, so we'll just drown. And that's pretty much what they end up doing. And it's mostly because of, I think it's still pheromones. Allows them to communicate with each other. But functionally speaking, they kind of have a radio built into their head. So, whenever, let's go speed. Come around. So, whenever one of them gets killed off in one way or another, the apparent logic behind it is, well, something killed our scout over here, therefore there must be something valuable over there, therefore we have to go send more ants. Which occasionally results in one of them getting stupidly killed off by some random piece of technology, and then suddenly deciding that it's the most amazing thing ever, and basically going to war with a generator. And that is literally what ends up happening in Texas there, because they have generators just kind of standing out in the sun, and those things will fry ants as soon as they end up walking into them. And, well, normally that wouldn't be too much of an issue, except for the fact that then those ants get pissed off, and they're like, no, we gotta get revenge, and they'll just spend frickin' millions of ants to go swarm a generator till the thing explodes. Not actually knowing that it would do that. Like, their whole logic is literally just, we gotta figure out what happened here. So, let's spend everybody on that. And, you know, they can just make more ants, so I don't care. It's a weird, weird situation. Yeah, there we go, that was a challenge. You have a good excuse, at least? Dude, friggin' mosquitoes just friggin' annihilated you. Without any trouble whatsoever. But yeah, so they will keep doing that over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and it is crazy now. Okay, actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, by the way. So I have Steve with a defensive, basically a high crit defensive setup, whereas most of the others are going for evasion vests, which I still have to state is the fact that evasive vests are a thing. I don't know, it just gives happy feelings. But, at any rate, that will be next time. Or will it? Screw it, let's just do that now. It won't be. It will be now, because I probably won't get back to this for another few days. Usually how it goes. Because I have, looks like, 42 minutes till 2 kiddos and 2 kittens gotta eat. During that time, I gotta get some work in. Do this up a little bit. Basically just bomb rush the crap out of the staircase. Set up a little firing area as usual. And then basically carve through these guys like a hot knife through something that does not like hot knives. Namely everything. Like, you know, hot knives actually pretty much only go through butter. I guess occasionally they go through other stuff. But they just have a tendency to bend more. Just occurred to me, there were these knives in New Vegas, or maybe the exception to that. I think it was, I think they said they were made out of some superheated ceramic or something, and that's why it worked. But yeah, normally if you just superheated a knife or something, it would just be super bendy. Like, it would hurt, obviously. But mostly it would just be bendy. But yeah, no, so they had, I think they called them cosmic knives. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were ceramic. Like 99.4% certain. They've got friggin' healers out the woo-ha for this one. Gotta be done this way. I'm expecting maybe 2 to go down. Not really expecting any massive losses or anything. Man, friggin' party turnover. It doesn't even matter, like, on that Iron Man run that I was doing with everybody having only 1 life. Later on, it ended up getting into some pretty high party turnover, and even that is just hilariously quaint compared to the weirdness that's been going on with Xenonauts there. So, I mentioned that game a few times. It's basically like if XCOM went and applied a more realistic strategy approach. So, for example, say there's a fight going on and it's... you basically have one group, you know, trying to suppress another group while another one tries to go make maneuvers, while another one tries to go do something else, that kind of thing. Like, a lot more mixed unit tactics and stuff, that sort of thing. Whereas a lot of the other XCOM stuff was more just like playing it safe all the time. This then was more about just taking risks and hoping they pay off all the time, and I mean literally all the frickin' time. Like, to the point where party turnover, if you have half your party come back from something, you did alright. If everybody makes it, that is a dang miracle. So, it's kind of insanity. Like, just how fast everything can turn around. I think the best example of that, so I had, you basically go on these things where, okay, how to explain it? So, the setup is there's an alien invasion of sorts, right? So, you have a crap ton of planes that you put together in order to go and try to shoot them down. If they go in the water, that's fine. If they go on the ground, you have the option of basically just blowing it up and selling whatever's left, or sending a group in to pretty much pawn off whatever's inside the thing, and basically find any kind of research materials. And the only way that you progress is finding things to research, allocating the appropriate research, and then applying whatever that research gave you. So there's kind of like it's kind of like a tech tree that you're researching down, except you actually have to find the things to do it. And sometimes having different combinations of different things on hand will result in different stuff. But so, as an example, you know, I had a few people that had survived a few things, and every time somebody survives going out, they get pretty decent upgrade. It's only like 1% per each of their stats, but they max out at 100, they start off at like 60 to 100, or no, they start out at like 40 to 70, what am I saying? Actually sometimes even lower. But point being, they, you know, they have okay stats. XCOM's whole thing was just everybody sucks, and that one, its whole shtick is more, you know, everybody's decent, but if you want them to be amazing, they're gonna have to survive a while. You're gonna have to actually... So, I have a few that have survived several fights, they're nearly maxed out in their rank and everything, and they're doing pretty alright. And yeah, just one guy making one mistake was enough to completely wreck everybody. So, I was trying to capture a guy, like... You basically go on this whole thing and you have to figure out... Where's this one? So you have to figure out who who you need to capture, and essentially where to find them. So, like, let's say it starts off and your available research is, okay, you want to figure out the basics of the invasion in general, and from there it goes into upgrades for your jets. Get a basic upgrade, and then work on seduction. Have the Kama Sutra lying around? Actually, that's more post-seduction. Actually, it's more post a lot of things, including post-clothes. Good times. Anyway. Then you're one-shot. But okay, so in that particular thing, it was onto a part where you have to capture an op. Basically, just there's a random alien guy sitting around with a weird thing on his head that's pretty much mind controlling everybody else, and they just have like this whole hive mind thing going on. So it's funny because they completely nailed this feeling of, oh, you know, I just found the guy. Oh crap, everyone is completely screwed and I don't have the right stuff with me. Because you usually in all of these, you don't actually have ranged options. And by ranged, I just mean like from your base. Before you send somebody out, you don't know what you're actually going to find there. So, in this particular case, I had just run into what I like to call Terminators, which are pretty much exactly that. They're like straight-up Terminators. And had pretty much loaded up everybody for fighting those things, because the last few times had been those. I felt it was a pretty reasonable assumption. And I get there, like, oh, no, actually, there's one of those officer guys there, so why don't you go get him? And so, I tried. With all of these better units and everything else. Seemed like everything was going pretty reasonably well. Then over the course of one turn, I just friggin' hit end turn, and they all pop out from behind corners like I'd already captured the guy. They had set up this ridiculously elaborate trap where they had pretty much fed the group a few grunts all the way to the door. And, somebody sent stuff about a laundromat. What the hell? Anyway, that was strange. That a customer of mine that suddenly was talking about laundromats. I'm feeling that was meant to go to somebody else. But okay. So they pretty much fed a bunch of disposable units to the party. They got all the way up to the front door, and then the leader comes out. Which never happens. Usually the guy's sitting in the very back of their ship there, just not moving, camping out. And then as soon as you walk through the door, they're like, oh, check it out, I've got all the points in the world. Watch as I take 3 reaction shots and basically insta-kill 3 dudes. So, yeah, you're kind of expected to take losses all the time, because they're just crazy good. But anyway, so I go, you know, I capture the guy, I'm gonna go electrocute him and everything else. Figure, okay, you know what, I don't know what else is going on, so I'm just gonna have everybody go into the UFO thing. The way the system works is if you have people inside and you take over this UFO, you basically automatically win if you hold it for 5 rounds. So it seemed like the reasonable thing to do. It was a nighttime thing. You basically can show up at different times of the day. During the night is absolutely the worst because you massive limitation on how far you can see and what you can do, kind of thing. So you can get completely attacked from the dark, kind of thing. So I figure, okay, pile everyone inside, just kind of wait it out. Everything was going super well up to this point. And no, doesn't end up working out that way, because then right that following turn, like a dozen dudes come around corners, just completely wiping out everybody in one turn. Like, really? Like, they managed to hit absolutely everyone despite the odds, which usually the odds are in the low 30% or something, even in the best case scenario. Alright. Let's finish him off. I'm going for Pumpkin Bomb on somebody else, but that'll do. He also got eaten by mosquitoes. Wait! Don't go! Don't leave us in the castle, it's got zombies in it. Oh man. Even Resident Evil, that needs to be a thing. Just Steve shows up and just wins the zombie apocalypse. Still nothing. No, there's a nothing right over here. I really have to save... You know what? I'm pretty sure I remember the dialogue here, but... her annoying butt has to be saved in order for Coda to unlock, so... Hey, yeah, shut up, Cashua. Let's see. Earlier had picked... probably had picked the war option, so... did what I had to. He dead. Okay, that was the wrong answer. Okay, apparently this is the right answer. I think it's this one. You preggers or something? I gotta say, her whole shtick during this whole time, she totally acts like somebody going through pregnancy. Here, have her join. There we go. Here's a Sybil. Ooh. Sybil, she can be one Sybil. Not like she's really gonna be used for anything this run. Okay, so we've got those two. I think we need to still go back and get Opus. And then we need Vice. We're gonna be going back and doing the law route. Go pick his stupid butt up at some point. And I was thinking... actually, no, I'll be able to unlock... Ogre, right? Which... I guess he's dead or something at this point. That unlocks anything? Nope. Alright, no. So... okay, we gotta get Heim before Apocrypha. That's fine. Let's go do that next. My best bet, I'm thinking, is then we do Heim, do Apocrypha, do Quadriga, and then EOTD. Then finish the story, and then probably book skip through there. Is there really a point in doing POTD twice, though? Really isn't, as far as I'm aware. Right. Anyway, see you next time then.